Over nearly half a century, between 1784 and 1833, more than 1,000 young men traveled to a town in the Connecticut hills to study to become lawyers. They were taught in a new way, not as apprentices, but in classes, by judges Tapping Reeve and James Gould. Until the founding of law schools at Yale, Harvard, and other universities, the premier institution for the education of lawyers in America was the Litchfield Law School. On the long climbing journey to Litchfield, the young men were often joined by young women, traveling to Miss Pierce's school, the Litchfield Female Academy. These were the promising young people of a promising young country, and worth knowing.
Whoa! One of the horses has picked up a stone. We'll need a replacement. But there is a tavern just up the road. We can wait there until we can go on. What do you say?
Is it far?
Not a mile from here. And Litchfield's only a few miles farther. There's a livery stable there.
Yes, the tavern keeper can send word.
Oh, Emily, the walk will refresh us.
Well, all's well but the horse. Ladies, can I assist you?
Thank you, sir.
Let me see what you got. Oh, these are very good. Now, oh, we have visitors. Run back and get some of your...
Step in. Step in. Welcome. Trouble on the stage?
Yeah, horse went lame. The driver's still with the coach and team. He said you could send a Litchfield.
To the livery for another horse, yes, sir.
In the meantime, perhaps the ladies and we might have some refreshment.
Yes, of course. Step right in. You're welcome.
Oh, there's a fire.
You, young man, where do you go?
To Litchfield, sir. To study the law.
Do I know you?
I've stopped here in my time as a peddler. Yes.
Judge Reeve would make an American lawyer out of a peddler, would he? I wish that Tory lot that went packing could see this. Step in now with the others, sir. And your meal is on my account.
I had hoped to look well, and now I'm covered in dirt. Mr. Willoughby isn't looking too closely, is he?
Oh, Emily, do try to be serious. Besides, your cheeks are fresh, and Mr. Willoughby will notice that. And just now.
Miss Clay, would you and your cousin care to join the gentleman at the larger table?
Thank you, but we must restore ourselves from the mud of the road.
My good friend, Mr. Sparrow, made me promise to see that his cousin's journey be a safe one.
Thank you. I assure you we are quite safe.
You are determined that no gentleman shall pay either of us the least attention.
It's only that one must take care not to appear over-interested. As for me, that young gentleman from Ohio shows promise.
One of the vacations begins, I think, about the middle of May and continues 5 weeks. The other begins about the last...
Mr. Hargrave,
and continues
the innkeeper says you ought to study with Judge Reeve. I hadn't realized. Where's your home?
My home is in Connecticut.
I didn't know you at Yale.
I did not attend Yale. I go to Judge Reeve directly from the common school.
Ah, may I? That walk has left me with an appetite.
Yes, I suppose the walk in the fresh air is an improvement on sitting in the coach.
Indeed. An excess of confined humanity. May we have a pitcher of cider and perhaps some cold meat and bread? I'm sure my friend will have some.
Thank you, but...
What will you have?
I have the gentleman's order paid in advance.
Pleasant people, the innkeeper and his wife.
And George, I expect you to find a Negro slave waiting at table.
You are correct. Though I have heard of one instance in which a free Negro was master of his own tavern.
Will it surprise you to learn that the fresh horse coming from Litchfield is from a livery stable owned by a free Negro? A free Negro from Georgia.
Well, one may not wish to inquire closely how he came by his freedom.
Gentlemen, we shall be students together in Litchfield. Will you not join Mr. Guilford and me?
What do you say, Hargrave?
I am just returning to Litchfield from a visit to New York, where President Madison is not much liked. Surely not in my home. First, Mr. Jefferson's embargo on overseas trade, and now Mr. Madison's policies. Little improvement. Nearly ruined my family.
Well, my friends at Harvard say that the Federalists will gain in the Congress.
Judge Reeve, you know, is Federalist and a good man.
Well, many good men are Federalists, though Federalists do favor wealth and privilege. Some have even endorsed secession, taking New England out of the Union.
Well, Judge Reeve would say to you that secession is a legitimate refuge of a minority when its rights are threatened by an unruly majority.
Or an unchecked president, as Mr. Jefferson was. Well, his purchase of the Louisiana Territory was brilliant, but an act done with some disregard for the limits to presidential power in our Constitution. Such a precedent is unnerving to those who fear unlimited power.
Well, in our section of the country, we hear arguments that the rights of citizens would best be protected by a completely new civil code, like that of France. Laws be written in statutes by a legislature elected by the citizens. This code would replace the antiquated English common law, which we, gentlemen, are about to study.
If the common law of the mother country can be salvaged for use in our precarious republic, Judge Reeve will do it. He argues that the value of the common law is not as a jumble of antique regulations, but as a repository of scientific principles, distilled from centuries of human experience, which must be applied in order to preserve justice.
Mr. Willoughby, I will concede to the Jacobins in your party one valid point. The effect of the common law is determined by judges whose personal interests lie with the propertied class.
Indeed. And that is true, of course, because of the manner by which the judges have been chosen. We shall see reforms that lead to election of judges.
Or perhaps to their easier impeachment. We all remember President Jefferson's strenuous but failed attempt to eliminate a Federalist justice from the Supreme Court for opposing him.
And Justice Chase survived through the efforts of Vice President Burr, who is Judge Reeve's brother-in-law.
Mr. Aaron Burr has since that time quite ruined himself, organizing an insurrection to take the Louisiana Territory from the Union. Disgraceful. I should advise you not to discuss him with Judge Reeve. Oh, I see the ladies have returned. Willoughby, see if they will respond to your excellent Southern breeding.
Alas, Barclay, I have already failed in this mission. Georgia yields to New York.
Miss Clay and Miss Smith, as we were properly introduced in Hartford, and as your aunt, with whom you traveled to that city, is distantly related to my brother's wife in Newport, might you not find it suitable to join our table of future lawyers? Two ladies from Georgia might lighten our solemn talk.
Do you imagine, Mr. Barclay, that we have traveled all this way to study in Litchfield only to improve our capacity for trivial conversation?
But I meant to add to our deliberations the female perspective, which is needed not for its triviality, but for its wit and its grasp of eternal values.
My cousin and I would be delighted to join your party.
Thank you, sir.
But the settlers will soon see to improvements.
Mr. Guilford. Mr. Guilford, if my question is not impertinent, I should like to know why you have chosen a profession in the law.
Well, I have considered whether to enter my father's profession, the clergy, or the law. As you may know, many of the older lawyers were British loyalists who were forbidden to practice after our revolution, leaving a shortage of lawyers and an increase in litigation. Well, our generation must study the law in order to ensure that our republic may survive.
And in aiding the survival of the Republic, you ensure your own survival.
Do you not think, Miss Clay, that Mr. Guilford is making a great sacrifice to be a mere lawyer? The lawyer toils in a world of men, while the minister has the admiration of all the women in his village.
I should have thought that the minister's advantage was to be always concerned with that which is most noble.
Miss Clay, now perhaps you will tell us, what are your reasons for traveling such a great distance to study?
There is no female academy in Georgia that compares in reputation with Miss Pierce's school in Litchfield. My father and my cousin's father know of it because they both studied in Litchfield under Judge Reeve. It is our family's belief that our nation requires that both sexes be educated. Mr. Guilford, I should like to know what you plan to do after your studies in Litchfield.
I shall return to Ohio to practice law, and then to seek public office. I will strive to protect the Western territories from the expansion of slavery. I must speak the truth, I am sorry.
But the law of the United States will protect a man's property, wherever he may take it. Don't you agree, Barclay?
If you think you offend me, you are mistaken. You should be aware that support for slavery is not universal through the southern states. I, for one, find it inconsistent with both our professed religion and our common sense.
Coach has come.
I came as soon as I could. This team will get you to Litchfield. Gentlemen?
The man of whom I spoke.
The runaway slave. The free Negro.
Miss Clay. Miss Clay, may I call upon you once we're settled in Litchfield?
I shall be boarding with the Lothrops. Emily, may I have a word? Excuse me, Mr. Willoughby. Oh, isn't this exciting? And the snow. I can't wait to see Litchfield. Mr. Willoughby said he would invite me for a sleigh ride. Oh, Sarah, I will study, honestly. But Sarah, just think, all these promising men from everywhere all going to Litchfield.
Come on in, Barclay.
Thank you.
Miss Clay.
Ladies?
Thank you, sir.
Hargrave, you're to be an esquire. In you go with the gentleman. I'll be off.
Here. Here.
The number of the law school increases almost every day. It's larger at this time than any preceding period. Probably is not far from 50.
I think I never was in a more agreeable, pleasant country village in all my travels.
At Miss Pierce's, there are the 2 of us from Georgia and 3 from Ohio. There is one young lady boards there about my age from Norfolk,
Young
Virginia.
ladies, she tells me, all marry law students.
It is with pleasure that I again resume my studies after a delightful vacation of 3 weeks.
That in order to take with me a complete course of lectures, I shall have to be under the necessity of writing between 12 and 14 pages a day.
I came to Litchfield with a hatred to the study of the law. But since my residence here, it has appeared in a far different aspect. I think I shall acquire more law information here in 6 months than I did all the last year.
The promising young men of the Litchfield Law School would go on to become state legislators, congressmen, senators, governors, judges, Supreme Court justices.
We are arrived.
During the 5 decades of the law school's existence, the country grew from 13 to 24 United States, and nearly all of these were represented among the students of Miss Pierce and Judge Reeve.
We've done it safely here.
Their own letters and diaries are the basis of this film and exhibition. The legal institutions we rely on today were influenced in ways large and small by the pioneering law school whose presence and perseverance, year after year, inspired so many coming to Litchfield.